Okay, folks, this is Dr. V here. I am here to create a very short intro video to help you complete lab number 3. Along with this video, you are going to be using a PowerPoint, which I will be posting in the folder on the lab number 3 in the content area on Blackboard to help you with this assignment, this laboratory. Now, I'm apologizing in advance for the quality of this video. I do not have the proper equipment, and so I am improvising here. I'm using the computer to show you what I will be explaining, and I know there's some kind of lighting issue when you're trying to project a camera onto another screen like a laptop or a PC, okay? And so I apologize in advance for that. So lab number 3 requires you to create a phylogenetic tree. I'm not going to go into details regarding the parts of a phylogenetic tree and this other information that you could find both in your textbook and in the introductory portion of your lab manual. But instead, I'm going to model an activity that will help you to create your phylogenetic tree for this laboratory. Okay, so first we're beginning with a table of data. Okay, you, just like me, have a table of data that you need to complete. Your table of data requires you to look at features that are found in a specific group of organisms. Okay, now my table of data is very simple, but it's very similar to what you will be doing, although the organisms and the features are different. Okay, so what I would love you to do is for you to look at this video and try to understand what I'm doing. This will give you some insight as to how to go about to do your own phylogenetic tree for this lab. The features in my example are the lungs, jaws, feathers, gizzard, and fur, whereas the organisms are the lamprey, the antelope, the bald eagle, the alligator, and the sea bass. What I'm doing here today is to fill out my data table that you should do in yours. But with my data table, there is one group of organisms that is not as closely related, or it does not have a more common recent ancestor as the others. Okay, so this group is called the outgroup, and in your data you are going to see the outgroup, and we will identify our outgroup in this example as we fill out the data. Okay, so let's fill out the data. You could go about doing this in one of two ways. Okay, you could either go ahead and fill out your information for all the features going across, okay, horizontally, and seeing if the features are present or absent in the various species. Or you could do it by looking at a single group of species and looking to see if the features are present or not. Now I will be using an X to indicate the presence of a feature, and I'm going to use the minus sign or dash to represent the absence of or the lack of a feature. Okay, your lab manual asks you to use an X. All right, and so we are going to do just that. Okay, so first we're going to begin with the lamprey. I'm going to do it the second way. Instead of looking at each feature, I'm going to look at each group of species. So I'm going to look at the lamprey and find out which features is present. Okay, all right, so let's begin. The lamprey has no lungs, no jaws, no feathers, no gizzard, no fur. Okay, the antelope has lungs, it has jaws, it has no feathers, no gizzard, and has fur. The bald eagle has lungs, it has jaws, it has feathers, it has a gizzard, but no fur. The alligator has lungs, it has jaws, it does not have feathers, it has gizzard, and no fur. The sea bass has no lungs, it has jaws, it has no feathers, no gizzard, and no full. So this completes the data collection. And so this is our data right here, the data set that I will be using to help me with my phylogenetic tree. Okay, and the next thing that you should do after you've completed this is to find out how the data will be used. So when you're completed with yours, you could either move along into creating your phylogenetic tree, or you could check with me to verify that the data that you have amassed is correct. Okay, now if you're very sure that you have used the resources, the internet, your textbooks, and you are satisfied with your answers for your data set, you go ahead. If you are unsure about a few things and you want me to take a look, you could send them to me in an email and I could go over it, okay, and see if you're well on your way or not. Okay, so what comes next after you have generated your data set and all of your information is correct indeed? You are now going to tally all the positives, all the X's that you have. So that comes next. 1, complete the data. Okay, 2, you are going to analyze the data. And for this is how you do it. Okay, I'm going to use black. All right, you are going to count all the X's that you have going for each of the features, not the species. Okay, and so therefore we begin. We've got 3 organisms that have lungs, 4 that have jaws, 1 that has feathers, 2 that has gizzard, and 1 that has foot. Okay, and so this is what we're working with. When you begin with your creation of your phylogenetic tree, you are going to begin with the organism, not the organism, sorry, but the features that have the most organisms having that derived characteristic or that derived feature. So in this case here, our largest number is 4. Okay, so it means that jaws will be first on our line. Now if you notice, the lamprey has none of the desired features that we're looking at specifically. Okay, so these derived features are not found in the lamprey, which does not mean or indicate that it is not related to the others. It is only indicating that the lamprey has an older common ancestor than these organisms that it is being compared to here. Okay, so the more common recent ancestor would not include the lamprey in that group. The lamprey would have been an older ancestor of these other organisms here. So it means that the lamprey would be the first organisms that we are writing down on our phylogenetic tree. And we already realized that there are 4 of them that has the jaws. So the jaws is the most common feature. So it means that jaws will be coming right here next. Okay, then the next most common feature would be the lungs, where we have 3 organisms with that here: the antelope, the bald eagle, and the alligator. The sea bass and the lamprey do not have lungs. Okay, so lungs would be coming here. Now before the arrival of lungs, it means that the lamprey and the sea bass would have already have been present. Okay, so before jaws was the lamprey. Okay, some big divergence activity took place, and then the organisms that came about after that, they developed jaws. Another big divergence, something occurred, event. So where every time you have the branching occurs with the nodes, it means that where that common ancestor exists, there was a divergent event that caused that ancestor to split into two different groups. Okay, so the first divergence event took place here, where it gave us lampreys and another group of organisms. Okay, the other group of organisms all had jaws, but the lamprey did not. Another divergence occurrence event came about, and then we had the jaws, all the organisms with jaws, then having two groups were formed. The one was the sea bass, and the others had lungs, where the sea bass did not have lungs. Okay, so now our next number on our table is number 2, the gizzard. Okay, so after the divergence occurrence or event, organisms with gizzards, they arrive. Okay, so we have the gizzard, and if we look at the gizzard, we find that the lamprey, the antelope, and the sea bass does not have gizzard. So we have the sea bass and the lamprey already represented, so it means that we are putting in the antelope right here. Okay, then next, after that, there was another divergence event that occurred and caused us to have organisms that derive both feathers and fur. Where do we put feathers and fur? It depends on which of the species that we put wherever. Okay, so if I were to put in my hair, out of the two species that are left, the bald eagle and the alligator, bald eagle, G-L-E, and the alligator, A-L-L-I-G-A-T-O-R, then we will know where our two features, 1 and 1, will be. Okay, so let's first look at feathers. Of the two, it will be the bald eagle that has feathers. So let me just use another color to write that in so it does not confuse us. Feathers are written here. And for the alligator, we are going to put the one that is left. I'm sorry, let me just get this out. So we have feathers written right here. Okay, and for the alligator, we know that the alligator does not have any of these other features, but we still have fur. Okay, we still have fur here to put on our tree. Okay, so where do we put fur? Of all these organisms, the only one that has fur is the antelope. Okay, the antelope has fur, so therefore fur will be right here. Okay, so that is how it is done. So now all our organisms are represented, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and all our features have been represented. What do we notice about the two in orange, the fur and the feather? These are derived traits that came about but are not shared traits. Okay, so fur is not shared among any of the other species of vertebrates, and feather also, whereas all the others are to a certain extent. Okay, remember that this is the root down here, and each node you have a common ancestor, and that shows the relationship between the unrelatedness between the lamprey and the others. And as you move up, you are moving to the more common species that exist today. Okay, and as you go further down from the closer to the root, these are the ancient ancestors. Some of them are extinct. Okay, and it would show that this relationship whereas the lamprey is a common ancestor with all the other organisms, it is not as closely related to the others as they are to each other. Okay, so with this is what I wanted to show you guys, and hope that this video has helped you and enabled you to understand what is it exactly that you're doing for your lab. Now for your lab, you have been asked to complete your data table, and I have, like I said, put together for you a PowerPoint, and your PowerPoint has these same pictures here. You'll be looking at the bony fish, the jawless fish, the mammals, the cartilaginous fish, the reptiles, the that avian and the non-avian reptiles, as well as the amphibians and your echinoderms. One of these groups of species here, they do not have all the features that you are going to be looking at, and it is called an outgroup. So you will find the outgroup, where in my case, my outgroup was my lamprey. Okay, so if you have any questions, you get to me, you email me. If not, you go ahead and submit your stuff and start preparing for your exam number 1. Thank you, folks. I'm out.